Alright, this is going to be the first series of the Cavalier Star League, which is an in-house league at the University of Virginia. Here we have on the bottom left our Protoss and current highest seed, MontyJava. And in the top right, our wonderful treasure, the actual GOAT, finance god, our Terran player, Nintendoss. Looks like both are going to be opening up pretty standard, not much coming, not much crazy happening, except Nintendoss does have a 15 gas, so his barracks is going to be slightly delayed right there. I'm actually not used to that anymore. That used to be the standard though, which is pretty crazy to think about, that we used to do gas first and then barracks every single matchup, even though that's just completely inefficient. It was cool to see how it evolved. So as we got better and better at defending things, I'm not quite sure if the patch history says like offensive options became worse. But I'm definitely of the opinion that as Terrans got better at defending things, we could greed a little bit extra hard. I'm going to move my mic real quick. I accidentally moved my mouse. As Terrans got a little bit better at... Hold on. The probe. Oh my goodness. That boy living. That boy living on a prayer. As Terrans got better and better at defending the early game and not dying to cheeses and proxies, Terrans were able to greed a lot more, which then allowed us to do things like transition from 15 gas to 16 gas, because you're getting your barracks a little bit earlier, but your Reaper is going to be that slightly later, which was enough to take years to develop that sort of meta shift, but eventually it did happen. Super interesting how that happens over time, where as we get better and better at StarCraft, we're just able to greed just a little bit more and just keep pushing the boundary forward and forward. Oh, accidentally lost the SCV there. That's a classic. You send the SCV to punch the probe that's scouting you, and then you actually forget it's on the A click. But we do have a Stargate coming out from MontyJava here. Pretty exciting stuff. Normally, at least from what I observe in North America, Stargate builds are actually not that common in Terran versus Protoss. Most Protosses like to elect for more robotics bay or even Twilight Council style. Not many people like to elect for Stargates, but I like it. What was always interesting to me when I was preparing builds or trying to learn builds is that a lot of the best Terrans in Korea would face against Korean Protosses who, in general, were much more willing to open up Stargate. Stargate was definitely a lot more prevalent at pro level, probably because you're on a much thinner margin. Air units being a lot higher tech, you can't lose them. If you lose them, the game's just completely over. You can apply a lot of pressure, but it's a lot riskier, and because of that, Terrans were able to do a lot of different builds in Korea that involved punishing or the lack of units, or trying to exploit the fact that you're going for a lot of gas-intensive units. So when I would try to look at builds from Korean Terrans, a lot of the coolest ones I could find would really only be super good against Stargates and would kind of just die to... Oh, MontyJava loses the first Adept here, though. We'll have this Adept pressure and have the Oracle coming in at the same time. Let's see how this works out. Oh, Nintendoss. His wall was a little bit messed up, but we have some units here to protect it. But the real question is the Oracle going to come in at the same time? It doesn't look like it. Nintendoss loses a Reaper. That's okay. We'll just bring the Marines up and clean up those two Adepts. 2 Adepts for a Reaper. You'll take that trade any day. Nintendoss did skimp out a little bit on the SCV production there to defend that, but you know what? It happens to the best of us. Does have an idle SCV here, but I'm just trying to look at these 2 Oracles to see when is MontyJava going to go in with these Oracles. A lot of damage can be done. Pretty exposed base. Actually, no. A Cyclone here for Nintendoss. Okay, starts going immediately, but they can target down the Cyclone. That is so much spell damage. The armor not going to do anything against that. And Nintendoss immediately pulls the Marines out to try and deal with this, but already there's some pretty decent amount of kills happening. You can check it right here. 4 SCVs. Not much hull damage at all on these Oracles. Actually goes up to 3. Quite a large number of Oracles, especially in Terran versus Protoss. Nintendoss does opt for Cyclone Viking to help thwart this, but the problem is that even if this isn't doing a lot of direct damage by killing a lot of SCVs, only 4 killed, it's doing a lot of economic damage because Nintendoss is skipping out on a lot of SCVs. They don't have a lot of money, so they try to build units to try and defend him, but when you build a lot of units and you haven't been building SCVs, your economy starts to take a huge hit, and you get more desperate to try and get more units out. But in reality, had you actually invested in the SCVs before, you would actually be able to have even more units out than you currently have. It's definitely one of those sort of like, oh, best time to plant a tree was 100 years ago and the second best time is now sort of deal. Where when you look at these kinds of games, it's hard to, I feel like it's hard to see when you're starting out, because when you're in the game, it feels like you're trying your best and it feels like you're making as many workers as possible. But in reality, it's hard to contend with the fact that sometimes you do have limits and you have to practice and train and keep training that hard to break them. And I find that when I watch beginner games, or lower level games at least, or at least games that just aren't at the professional level pretty much, not warp building, maybe like games below like High Masters or something like that. Building SCVs and building workers consistently is such a big issue. Even for me, when I was at like my peak, probably like low Grandmaster level, building SCVs was pretty difficult to get to a pro level. I really wasn't able to get that consistently. And that's just such a big thing. Even missing 1 or 2 SCVs, you can feel the difference. And what's hard about it is that you start to slowly optimize your build, taking that into account instead of building more SCVs. And that's the thing that's so difficult about StarCraft, is that it's so easy to just fall into the same bad habits again, and you start to optimize for unoptimal situations. So in tournament matches, that's completely fine because obviously you want to try and win. But for overall improvement, if you're not really doing the right thing, but you're accounting for that, you're really only reinforcing bad habits, actually. And that's why it's so hard to really scrutinize your own games. And honestly, that's where things like coaches come in. Anyway, we do see a third base floating down, but Nintendoss really does need to focus a lot more on the SCV production. We can see that MontyJava already over doubled the probes. We're at 84 probes. Honestly, probably a little bit too much. At this point, his army and his economy is just looking absolutely massive. You can definitely just keep slamming units into them ad infinitum and just kill them on the first, if not second wave. But, yeah, honestly, this is always such a sad position to be in with your Terran. I felt this before when you take some early economic damage and your build gets a little bit messed up. You definitely feel very hopeless, as you just kind of have less stuff than your opponent, and you always have to spend resources on doing things like having cyclones here or missile turrets in your base, always trying to, because if you don't take those, if you don't account for those, then you're taking massive risks, because a single warp prism can basically end your life. So it always feels really bad when you get into the mid game and you're just behind on economy. I think that's probably why a lot of the Terran builds in PvT can get so aggressive in so many different metas, because even just making a couple mistakes, like 1 or 2 mistakes, can kind of just make your life a little bit miserable. But also, I feel like that's probably the same for really any race. But at least for Terran, their defensive options against Protoss are a little bit less limited. I mean, Protoss, you can have weapons, you can have recalls that can help defend your bases on low economic situations. Not ideal, obviously. This is a planetary fortress. Might be hard to tell, but that is a planetary fortress. In low economic situations, not super ideal for obviously anyone, but I think for Terran, it's painful to have to spend money or take ginormous risks when you're behind economically, just because defending is so difficult. Anyway, we will see this big engagement of MontyJava coming in when he's completely maxed. Just wait for the 200, and then just click on this base. That planetary fortress is not going to stop anything right here. We do have the biostiming in. No combat shields actually for Nintendoss, but MontyJava just going to back away, take his losses, and I am perfectly okay with that decision. You know, you're not guaranteed to really win this fight. It is a lot of bio. You do have a lot of mostly gateway units, not much splash. But you can just take the third base, and you can just expand behind it. Good stuff, taking the fifth base at the same time. And really, you're going to be super ahead. Remax again. Yep, 198. Results run across the map. You even have 2 oracles for the 2-prong if you'd really want to get super fancy with it. But even just trading out anything at this point with such a big economy, you can see the big 3 pink arrows pointing up towards MontyJava, showing that, yep, he does have more than double the probes. This is true. Not perfect saturation. Actually, I take that back. Great saturation from MontyJava, but he is going to come into the natural, and that is going to be a lot of dudes. The Immortal's actually getting taken out from behind. The Zealot's running a little bit too far up. The siege tanks will siege up, get a lot of splash damage done. SCVs will fall to the Zealots, but Nintendoss actually taking a pretty solid army engagement. In fact, I would venture to guess that if he pulls the boys right now, that is probably, he could probably actually win this game. If I take a look at the unit count, yeah, 20 Zealots, 2 Immortals, 5 Stalkers, 2 Oracles. If Nintendoss pulled, oh, he doesn't have any SCVs. Oh. That's a little bit awkward. If Nintendoss had pulled the SCVs and just attacked with all of his bio, MontyJava would actually have a pretty hard time defending against it with his mostly gateway composition with very little to no splash. There are 4 Archons. Not really ideal, but might just get the job done. Oh, let's see if he catches them out unsieged. He does. Move clicks into the army. Move commands. What are you doing? Nintendoss, please! Shoots his own army! No! There's a Zealot in there! Oh my god, no. I can't believe it. I actually cannot believe it. How could this have happened? Oh no. Oh no. Not like this. I mean, the siege tanks are doing a lot of work. Let's see what the army can do, but MontyJava even sending in a Zealot run by right here. This is going to be pretty much a killing blow. There's nothing really at home. Nintendoss is just banking on this army right here, which would have a fighting chance had he kept up the SCV production. Everything comes back to the SCV production. If you look back at this game, the big takeaway is not, oh, I forgot combat shield. Oh, I shouldn't have made my third base into a planetary. Those are mistakes, and you shouldn't do those things. However, those aren't really useful to think about. Those aren't really your biggest priority mistakes. These mistakes aren't losing you the game first, at least. I mean, they're probably losing you the game to some extent, but not as much as having SCV production. For instance, imagine he kept up SCV production and had 66 SCVs. Oh, the army, actually, hold that thought. The army is just going to come in from behind. Take out these siege tanks. Nice army maneuvering. Pretty good trading, though, by Nintendoss. I'm not even going to lie. The army is kind of putting in some more. Mariners are pretty good against gateway-based armies. But at this point, it's just going to be a little bit too much. The Immortals and Archons will take it out and do shoot as well. So when looking at games like those, it's really there's so many moments where if you just had more SCVs, then the game is so much more easier. Imagine Nintendoss loses 40... Thank you, Blocks of Zealot. Fuck, I didn't realize I had notifications on. That's going in the VOD, whatever. There's so many moments where if you had more SCVs, even if he had lost, let's say, 40 SCVs, and then he's left with like 30 SCVs at the end, very low economy, not really much you can do. Those 30 SCVs would have been enough had he pulled them to actually kill MontyJava in that situation specifically. So just that mistake alone had cost him so much of the game. Is this a full wall? I don't think this is a full wall right here. I think we need to teach Nintendoss how to wall. So the way that you wall is that for buildings that are smaller than command centers, so 2x2, 3x3. I don't think there's a 4x4 building, but if there was, maybe in campaign. Actually, I don't want to lie, so I'm gonna say for 2x2 and 3x3 buildings, for build grid, you want to have one grid of the unbuildable terrain be aligned with the one grid of your 2x2 or 3x3. I don't know. I think it's up. Oh, yeah, it's not a wall. I think it's easier to explain if I had the build grid open, but essentially this depot needs to be moved just a smidge right here. You can't have any gaps diagonal or just not even touching right here. You need to have the squares right next to each other. So if there's a square here, you would have to have, so it probably looks something like this, where there's a square right here that's not being covered right now. And I noticed that Nintendoss actually did this in the last game as well, so you just gotta play around with the build editor a little bit. Not a super, well, I mean, it is like a big mistake, but not something that can't be fixed with just maybe like a couple minutes in a custom game by yourself. This depot is actually correctly placed. This will fill this gap. So you just got to do that. You can figure it out. Just go into a custom build order or like an instant build, an instant kill type custom map, and then you can just build buildings instantly and play around with the build grid until you find something. Here we do see Nintendoss going for the nuke special, the 2-on-1 siege tank mariner push against Protoss. This is something that another Terran in our clan, the nuke, absolutely loves doing. 3 racks is okay. Even the nuke doesn't do that. Or essentially, they just love doing their 2-on-1, making some marines, making some siege tanks, making some medevacs. I'm gonna sit back, I'm just gonna macro up, and then we're gonna move out. And actually, if I'm gonna be completely honest, they find great success doing so. In fact, I would venture to say that playing Marine Tank in every single matchup is probably one of the fastest ways to pick up the fundamentals of how Terran works as a whole. You can play all of those styles in every single matchup to a pretty decent level. Maybe, like, I doubt you would have much trouble until you start getting to, like, maybe, I don't know, high diamond or masters level. That's just a guess. I'm not even really quite sure. Obviously, building less, obviously not building optimal compositions will, you'll not have a great time. But building marine tanks, in my opinion, just going straight marine tank, one of the fastest ways you can learn how Terran works. You learn how stim bio works, you learn how drops work super well, and one of the most important things, you learn how siege tanks work. I'm pretty biased because I fucking love siege tanks, but I think siege tanks are one of the most important units in Terran that you can learn how to use. So many units like Liberators, Widow Mines, you learn the same sort of motions when you use a Siege Tank, but Siege Tank is the most punishing. It's such a fundamental unit that you use in every single matchup, but it's not like overpowered or anything. It doesn't hold your hand at all. You have to really get good at using them, and you'll be able to improve a lot, in my opinion at least, if you just use those units, because they also have different speeds. Stim Marines will run a lot faster than Siege Tanks, and you have to contend with that and manage your army. But it's not like a heavy spellcaster army, except for Stim and Siege, which is actually, that's pretty big. So I think it just teaches you the fundamentals of moving a Terran army around, and positioning, especially with Siege Tanks. Super, super important. You learn how siege spots work, you learn how spreading your units work, you learn how concaves work, you learn how drops work. Just very, very fundamental StarCraft in general. That's why I love Marine Siege Tank. That's why I love TVT as a whole, because it's such, or at least before, maybe like not as much nowadays, but when it was straight Marine Tank the whole time, it was such a fundamental matchup. It was just who had the better StarCraft fundamentals. What? Okay, I wasn't saying anything this whole time because I was too busy explaining this. But yeah, losing that War Prism is really big, but MontyJava actually going in for a two-prong attack. The Zealots will mess up that Siege Tank, but the Immortals are kind of stranded to the Marines. But there are actually not enough Marines. If they pull the Immortal back, then they might be able to live. But no, the Immortal will try and just kill all the Marines. No recall in sight for these boys. Oh, there we go. It will get away, but not really ideal. Not really what you wanted. But as what's happened the last game, Nintendoss, it is hard to defend and make SCVs and make sure your macro is kept up. So Nintendoss will fall behind a lot, has spent way too much money on missile turrets actually, holy shit. Yeah, you don't really want to be doing this. A lot of unnecessary money being spent, 3 missile turrets, not really what you want. When you're defending things, usually the optimal way is, like, in the early game, you might have a missile turret in your mineral line. 1 in production, 1 in your mineral line, just depending on what you're facing. Certainly against a Warp Prism, a Mortal Drop, you don't really need any missile turrets. If you want, you can put one, like, right here or something like that. But sometimes you just don't want to deal with it. Sometimes you take damage and you're like, you know what? I know he made a War Prism. He's probably going to make another one. I just don't want to deal with this. I'll put these turrets down right now so that way I can just focus on macroing up. And you know what? That's not ideal, but understandable at least. Yeah, but we do see MontyJava just macroing up, actually going for Disruptors this time around instead of Archons. I really like that Monty is changing up their build order. They're not really doing the same thing. They're trying out different units. Here we have Disruptors instead of Archons, but you still will see this heavy Zealot, maybe a couple Stalkers, sort of core of the army. And I believe this is something that's coming more into favor, especially from Hero. I have yet to see many of the games of the new patch, even though IEM was today. I would like to watch some of those games, but I don't know how many Terrans I'm super interested in watching. Maybe Ryung. Ryung always seems to pop off at IEM, even though, spoiler alert, he did not make it through. But we will see MontyJava posture outside of this natural role, just kind of chilling with the army. I always feel that, especially with Disruptors, it's so constricting to have to deal with this. Where they kind of just sit their army outside of ramps and then just start throwing balls. But Nintendoss will have Siege Tanks out. Oh, does not have any vision. Will take out the Siege Tank. This group of Siege Tank does kind of scare me, but they have the... Oh, that's a big Disruptor hit. Zealots no charge yet, actually. It's a bit of a mistake, but hopefully Nintendo... What? What? I didn't know these were destructible. What? Huh. Yeah, wow, what? I had no idea you could destroy these. That's crazy. Wow. Anyway. Yeah, it's really annoying when you get camped outside of your base with disruptors, because just moving up in general is so hard, just because the disruptor balls will just punish you for even walking up. And Nintendoss will take a slight trade. No medevacs in sight for this bio, so any stim that is going to be done will hurt severely for them. We do see 2 forges up and charge, remembered by Monty, as Nintendoss does try to take his 3rd base, upgrading it to a planetary fortress. I don't actually mind this when you're at lower levels, because base management is legitimately difficult. It's legitimately hard to manage your bases and keep SCV production going, keep regular production going, so I do not mind this decision at all. I think 3rd bases are a really big breaking point, where once you can start managing your 3rd base, you have a big jump in skill, just because Terran itself power spikes pretty hard. But we do see a ginormous disruptible. Oh my god, it just kills all the bio, and there's nothing you can do. He tries to do some fancy pickup micro, but oh my god, it's just a tragedy as everything gets wiped out. But he does move command to the planetary fortress a little bit. Not ideal. Not the best trades you could see. Yeah, traded pretty evenly, other units lost. But Nintendoss is a bit behind on the economy. You can see the income is pretty much mostly in favor of MontyJava here. 20 workers ahead. The pink arrows are pointing in direction, and a big bank for him. A quick Remax 11 zealots on the production tab. 2 disruptors as well. And yeah, that's just going to be a lot of Protoss that is going to be pushed up into this planetary fortress. Actually, I will say, we do have the 3-3 coming out. I am very surprised that we have 3-3. I feel like upgrades aren't a big priority at this level. I wouldn't really tell... I doubt I would tell a player... I doubt I would tell anyone that you should focus on not forgetting your upgrades. That is very important. Oh no. The bio blocked the path of the siege tank and it couldn't drop. Oh, that's actually so sad. Yeah, drops the siege tank now and does the siege, but no cancel on the 32C. Disruptor ball is going to come in. Oh, no stim. Oh, yay. Kills the siege tank. Kills a lot of the bio. You do have 2 tanks here now. Oh, the disruptors are stacking up pretty big though. Yeah, that's a lot of Protoss, man. It's just a lot of dudes. It's a lot of dudes. You can just overwhelm them with all of the dudes. There's no upgrades, actually. It's going to be 3-3 versus 0-0, so no wonder Nintendoss has been able to trade out so well. You can see the power of upgrades right here. Nintendoss's units are actually just so much stronger, having 2-2. But now they're going to be ahead 6 upgrades. Let's see how this fight goes with 3-3 finishing up. Oh, does not take the engagement. But maybe we'll see the Protoss upgrade speed buff coming in right now if he decides to attack. Might make the difference. Might make the difference. We do see MontyJava not actually taking a 5th base like they did before, instead opting for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Stargate. I can only assume to be a mass carrier transition with this many Stargates. I mean, you have 3K in the bank, but at the same time, you're going to be attacking in here into the siege tanks. 3-3 bio against 1-1 Protoss. Oh my god, the bio is actually doing so much work in the pickup micro and actually cleans up the entire Protoss army except for the disruptors. Holy crap. Upgrades are good, guys. Don't forget your upgrades. I'm actually just appalled. Nintendoss actually ahead right now in the resources lost. I have no words. I'm actually just completely appalled. Nintendoss is able to hold on solely because of the massive upgrade lead he has, but MontyJava will be taking his Nexus with the rich gas and with the fleet beacon right here. We even see air upgrades being researched. I wonder though, do you actually get more economy from rich bases, or is it simply more probe efficient? I would even venture to guess that having a rich Vespene Geyser is actually less economy than taking a regular base with 2 Vespene Geysers. But I'm not actually 100% sure, because Vespene Geysers, rich Vespene Geysers, if I recall correctly, they will mine 5 gas per trip, but it's only 1 Vespene Geyser. So if you have the same Vespene Geyser at the same rates, but you have 2 Vespene, and you have 6 workers, then for every 1 trip that the rich Vespene will get, you'll get 5 gas. But for every 1 trip on 2 regular geysers, you'll get 8 gas. So I think it might actually be incorrect if you're super ahead to take this base, and you would rather actually want these bases for maximum economic output. But oh my god, he actually catches all the disruptors. What is going on? He's sending no shots right now, but he actually runs away. Oh my god, he could have totally killed every single one of those disruptors, but he ventures to run back. Not a bad decision, but definitely would have been able to turn the tide of battle. But we can already see the 7 carriers already in production. Oh boy. The carriers shall arrive. But yeah, I don't really know. Not really much hope for Nintendoss in this game right here. Does have big upgrades, but if you're just going to be sitting back while your opponent expands, then really not much you can do about that. Wait, these actually are 14 mineral patches. Why are these 14? I thought you mine... Oh, wait, you mine 7 from minerals. Wait, I have to investigate this. I'll investigate this afterward. The mining rates for rich Vespene. But, also a really weird bug. On this map, the naturals will default to 18 SCVs, or 18 workers, as the tooltip right here. It'll say 18 is the optimal SCVs. I mean, it might be right, but it shouldn't be. It should be 16. So we actually see a stalker poke right here. It does take a lot of damage to the siege tanks, but that's a lot of medevac energy being drained by stimming all of the bio. You only need to really stim the front half, but not a big deal. Disruptor balls are going to come in. That's going to be big disruptor balls, as always. Siege tanks absolutely obliterating the stalkers right here. Oh my god. Snipes that disruptor, snipes the other one. Oh my god, Nintendoss? Can he do this? Can he actually... Oh, okay, that's a lot of carriers. Okay, if Nintendoss had a lot of... I'm pretty sure Nintendoss legitimately could have won this game. Like, this was not a blowout at all. MontyJava has been trading Oh my god, that's the 7k resource differential. Had Nintendoss been defending his bases well and making the SCVs and making just not even... We're not even going to say had he been making more units. Had he just been making more SCVs and didn't lose his 3rd base, he would be in a winning position, I'd say. In fact, after that engagement, maybe if he had a lot more Marines, the boys couldn't possibly have been pulled, and he might have been able to kill MontyJava. I doubt it though. 7 carriers, that's a lot of fucking carriers. But I think the important thing to note that even though you miss a lot of SCVs, you can do a lot of things good, like having good upgrades, and things like that just won't matter. I think it's the most important thing is always make sure you're on top of your production, SCV production, production. And now the carriers are going to come in, and that's just going to be a lot of carriers. But actually, there's a lot of Marines right here. If they're not supported by anything, the Marines will actually just kill all the interceptors. Huh. One carriers versus 3 Marines with medevacs. I wonder if the Marines actually would have been able to win this fight. after seeing that, I get the feeling that had Nintendoss pulled the boys after one of these engagements, after the engagement where Monty lost all the disruptors. Let's find this. Oh yeah, this is almost game winning right there. Let's see. I want to see. Okay, units. Huh. I feel like there was a real possibility, had we had like maybe 9 more Marines or something, that Nintendoss could have pulled Hall's army. Probably wouldn't even have need to pull the boys, because if it's only 3 disruptors. Just taken Hall's army, unsieged the tanks, and rolled across the map. He would have at the very least given Monty a pretty solid run for his money in this army engagement right here, I must say. But my prediction was that even if he had done that, it would have taken time to kill the carriers. It would have been taken time to kill the peripheral bases. In that time, 7 more carriers would have popped, and it's unlikely that Nintendoss would have been able to keep up with production while taking an army engagement at the same time. And then the 7 extra carriers would eventually win Monty the game. But that is going to be the first series of the Cavalier Star League. MontyJava will take a 2-0 victory over Nintendoss. So I think some pretty solid games. If I'm gonna be honest, I was a bit surprised. He definitely did pretty good for himself. So I gotta say, good stuff. Good stuff to him. Good on him, man. Good job. Good job. Alright, I do want to do a little investigation. Why is time trending on Wikipedia? It's weird. We gotta check Reddit. Alright, let's do primary monitor. Alright, let's see what's going on Reddit. Jesus Christ. Wow. Huh. Huh. Wait, let's check these results. Okay. Scarlet 2-0 to Time. 2-0 to Cham. What? 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 I honestly feel like Cham's better than... I don't know. I don't know how Nightmare plays. Nightmare did make a really deep run at Valencia. No shot. No shot, man. I mean, I don't know. From what I remember, Central American Zergs, or like Brazilian or South and Central America, or like Brazil server, it's a lot of cheesy Zergs. So maybe that makes sense. That Shame would be super duper used to that. This I am surprised about. I don't really think that like Ryung is necessarily like that much better than a laser. But I mean, like, I feel like Ryung always pops off at Katowice, but that didn't really seem to happen that much. Hold on, let me just put on just a little bit of music just for a bit. Let's see. Down in Spirit. Maybe I should watch that one. I feel like I should watch Cure Spirit so I can learn about how TVT works, because I haven't played that much on the new patch, to be completely honest. I'm not really familiar with how big the TVT changes are. I feel like they ought to have been pretty big though. I don't know why Time is trending. Oliveira. I don't really know. That's a weird name. He like named himself after like a UFC fighter, right? Charles Oliveira. Hey man, I guess he just really likes this guy. Broken man. Oh shit, what? Wait, what? He's in the military now? Oh fuck. Wait, no way. Yeah, there's no information about this. Damn. I guess. Yeah, I had no idea. Sure. Oh, this clip was
all the lings are going to go down. Yes, the medevac has fallen, but
dude,
he actually. Oh, look at the target fire. He gets every single. Things are going to go down. Yes, the medevac has.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I actually can't believe I counted that.
Fallen, but he actually. Oh, look at the target fire. He gets every single baneling, and that means he can maybe deny. Okay, never mind. Baneling's on the left side. He's not going to deny +1 range.
That's crazy. Oh yeah, that shit was fucking annoying. Oh, why volts? Oh, volts. Oh, another Reddit bound suggestion. What? That'd be cool. DRG didn't prep against Raynor and then beat him? It's fucking hilarious. CC first in the 2-base tank push. Is that actually what he was doing? I think that is what he would do, actually, yeah. They're making a meme without even making the meme now. This is the Reddit. We've gone to no memes to extremely low effort memes to we're not even making the meme. We're just saying the meme out loud. Jesus Christ. What am I really reading here? You guys are really shitting on Raynor and just extrapolating it to every single foreigner ever. Like, of course, that's just what? That doesn't make any sense, man. I don't really get it. I don't really get where these things are coming from. Wow, volts? Volts would be. There's so many names. Oh, he's Adrialing now. Oh my god, no, he was Zendanino. Oh, yeah. I remember this guy now. Man, this guy's a Reddit terrorist. Oh my fucking god. Oh my god. Yeah, I feel like this take feels really... Okay. I will say that, like... I feel like for a lot of the pro scene or, like, high-level scene that's not, like, at the top, this is... I feel like this kind of is a sort of feeling that really happens, right? Like, this is a sort of feeling that you can get. I don't know if it's really based off of truth, but at least for, like, personally, for a lot of high-level players that, like, aren't quite at the top and can make a big living off of this, I feel like this kind of makes sense. Like, I could be totally, like, wrong, but it's like, if you were a high-level player that weren't quite professional, and the game just isn't big enough to support you, so basically everyone in North America now playing StarCraft, not a viable way to live in North America. Like the best player, like Neeb or like Scarlet, I believe Scarlet is still full-time, but Neeb is not full-time. Is Neeb here? Oh, Neeb did not even make it in here, did he? Wow. Yeah, I know Neeb is nowhere to be found. Where is Neeb? Standings. Standings. Oh yeah, he's right here. Yeah, aside from Estrella and Scarlet, they are the only two full-time StarCraft players in North America, I believe. Because to be honest, it's just not viable in North America. It's just not. That's just the kind of reality of it. So if you're like a high-level player like Volts, but you're not like at Neeb or Scarlet level, then it's understandable why you can have this sentiment, because you might not say the pro scene, but your pro scene is basically dead. If you're in North America, there are like 2 full-time professional players in your entire region. When before, it was one of the biggest hubs of professional. You have MLG, the MLG days, right? So this kind of sentiment, honestly, completely understandable. I think but when you read this, it reads like, oh, all the scenes are dead, but I don't think that's really true, but it's definitely a lot smaller. If you're gonna deny that, then it's just objectively wrong. And it's understandable why you can have this sentiment of, yeah, I'm just holding out for Stormbait. Stormgate. Oh god, I hope not Stormbait. Oh my god. Do you know how terrible that would be for the StarCraft community? Like, imagine it's the StarCraft community, you're so hyped over this new game, and then it turns out to just not be good. That would actually be Stormbait right there. Oh my god. I think that would probably actually kill StarCraft. Because imagine you're like a tournament organizer and you're like, alright, I think this new game is going to be the new hot shit, so we're gonna like slowly transition away from StarCraft, and then it's not. I doubt they would have that sort of kind of plan though, of putting all your eggs in one basket, but it's... Crazy. Yeah, this is super weird. Like, I feel like this sentiment... I feel like this is what people... I don't know. I honestly don't know. It might be more like a Brood War situation, or it might be more like a Street Fighter 4 situation, you know what I mean? So for every new Street Fighter game, a lot of players will go on to the sequel, whether it's Street Fighter 5 to Street Fighter 6 coming out, or Street Fighter 4 going to Street Fighter 5. The vast majority of players in the pro scene, basically the entirety of the pro scene, will move to the next game. And the majority of the player base will move on to the next game. And then there might be a couple side tournaments or a couple players that just really like the old one, so they'll just keep playing the old one. In StarCraft, you had like Brood War, where the old game probably got a lot smaller, but there was still a substantial competitive scene. I'm not quite sure if it will be more like that, or if it will be more like Street Fighter, where the vast majority of players and professional scene will move on to the new game, the new hot thing, and then only like just super dedicated players that just really like playing the old game will stick with it. I think the casual players, I don't know. It's just hard to say. You can't really... I feel like you can't really say for sure. I feel like it's wrong to have this sentiment that Stormgate is going to be some promised land that will lead us all into like the land of milk and honey, you know? Like, I feel like that happens a lot for a lot of games like Smash Bros. Like, you had like Smash Bros, you go from like Brawl to Smash 4, you're like, oh my god, Brawl is so broken. You have Meta Knight fucking just destroying everything, the most broken character, we need to ban this. And you go to Smash 4, you're like, oh my god, this game is great. Meta Knight is so bad in this game, and it's like, there are so many cool characters. You have like Palutena and stuff. You have Corrin. Wow, this game is so sick. You have Cloud, oh my god, Cloud is so hype. And then you like Bayonetta drops, and then it's like, oh god, this game is terrible now, and we should ban this character. And then they didn't. And then they're like, oh man, Smash Ultimate drops, oh my god, Smash Ultimate is gonna be the best game ever. Online netcode, still complete garbage. Mechanics of the game, it definitely is a better game, don't get me wrong. But like, then shit like Steve comes out and it's like, oh wow, this is really not, this is not fun anymore. There's a lot of frustrating things about the game. Online is not great. Characters like Steve, super duper annoying. Things like of that nature. Community, still the same. Still have the worst Twitter takes I've ever seen in my entire life. Actually, that's not true. Call of Duty beats that. But it's like this sort of opinion, or like this sort of like sentiment, I feel like it's just a recipe for disappointment. I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm hyped for Stormgate. I think it's going to be a decent game. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a great game, honestly. But it doesn't have to be. There's no guarantee that just because the people have made StarCraft doesn't mean that this game will be as good. Because nothing is guaranteed. Do I think it's likely to happen? Do I have faith in them? Absolutely. From what I've seen and what they've put out, I have high hopes for this game. But to believe that this is some sort of promised land savior, it's going to save RTS, make RTS mainstream again. I don't know, man. I don't want to be like the Debbie Downer, but if I really sit down and think about it like this, probably one of the fastest ways you can have a bad launch is if you have such high expectations and then the game doesn't come out exactly how you want it. If you have expectations that are impossible to meet, then the game launch is going to be bad no matter how good the game is. We should not do that. We should not do that. Stormgate will be a 3-month thing like AoE 4 was, and then everything go back to StarCraft. Man, that would be so sad. Like, I'm really of the mindset of like, really no RTS has just been better than StarCraft 2? StarCraft 1? Competitively? Like, really? Like, is there seriously nothing left to do? We found the perfect formula. Like, in like less than 20 years, we found the perfect game in this genre. Like, surely. Yeah, Heike Volts have some kind of whack-ass takes. Oh my god. What the fuck? People are getting very angry for some reason. And Golden Wall alone. That's pretty funny, honestly. He doesn't do strategy, so he's better at Western tournament style of being like a day and no prep. What? Man, Reddit is a crazy place. That's a good post. I'll vote. Wouldn't necessarily change the outcome of the game. It would be nice to create an opportunity reserved to push for the kill in endgame versus Airdos. Hive upgrades for Queen's Trance to use off creep. I just don't think anyone would get that. Yeah, I don't... How do you handle rushes? So I'm a newer player who has been following Vibes, Bronze, the GM videos in order to learn the game and learn how to macro / what to focus on. I just placed in Bronze 1, however, unlike in this series, I feel like I'm constantly getting rushed by all my opponents. Whether it's a Protoss Cannon Rush, Zergling Rush, or Terran Planetary Fortress Rush, my natural before I can expand. I keep playing people who are attacking me within the first couple minutes, and I can't seem to macro / recover from the situation. Are there tips on playing out of these situations? I'm still enjoying the game, so I'm not going to quit until Stormgate comes out. Why until Stormgate comes out, man? I don't get it. I hate that this is the mentality that has been crafted. This sort of mentality, oh, it's just a recipe for disaster. It makes me scared. It genuinely frightens me. Like, what happens if it's not what we wanted? What happens if it is what we wanted? We all switch over and it's a perfect game and we have a perfect paradise. I feel like if the competitive scene switches over, it'll be a fucking imbalanced game. It's gonna be it's like games on release are rarely balanced. Competitive games especially. Like, they're gonna find some broken ass cheese that's going to completely ruin the ladder. Like, I feel like that's just bound to happen. That's what happens in every competitive game on release. Like, the first meta is... it's the undeveloped meta is usually very aggressive. Which I think is really interesting. Like, I think one of the most interesting things you could... I'm looking forward to seeing is seeing how the meta progresses and develops in Stormgate. Because it's rare, because rarely do you get opportunities, especially in RTS games, to see how a completely new game's meta will shape out. We had Age of Empires 4 pretty recently. But other than that, not really that much. Especially since not many good competitive RTS games exist. Do your best early. Scout when you're supposed to. Don't let some things you might do. I feel like in theory this... Okay, this isn't correct. This is correct, but I don't think this is right to tell someone. This is, if you're Bronze League, then you don't even know what the units do. Huh? You Worker Scout? Would I recommend someone to Worker Scout? I don't think I would. I don't think Worker Scouting is that useful if you're not a high level, honestly. Or like not like a, like even like a mid-level, you know. Like if you're not, I really don't think, especially in Bronze League, I don't think you should Worker Scout. 3 times this could be, why would I have said no before, but nowadays, Smurfy, X players rotate back into the game, they trying to rush, be better at rushing. It's your race. It has been every game at 1.3 games in a rush from to the post. Good. Trying to make us. Answers, I think, is like experience mechanics at the state where you can handle it. This is not good advice. This is just not good. The problem, one of the problems that I have with the StarCraft, like Reddit, is that nobody can do this. No, I'm not familiar with Bronze League, but I'm sure that nobody's going to fucking be able to do this shit. Like, this is just too much. Like, if you're Bronze, you're focusing on the very, very basics. And also, it's like, if you're Bronze, you're really not trying to be competitive. You just play the game and just do what you want, you know? Just play something. Just make shit. Like, I don't... Like, not everyone is trying to be a pro. And that's the thing that frustrates me so much in the StarCraft community. Or at least StarCraft Reddit. Not everyone's trying to be a pro, man. You should play the game in a way that lets you have fun. Like, yes, they're asking for advice, so... Yeah, okay, sure, yeah. But if it's in Bronze League, is the advice really to just be like, just get better mechanics, bro, scout early, make sure you know what the opponent's doing? It's like, dude, I don't even know what you're thinking in Bronze League. Like, I'm pretty sure you're just trying to make sure you remember all the unit names and what they all do. Like, I feel like if you just play more, then you'll just be fine. Like, when you're at such the low levels... When you're at such a low level, just playing is going to be so helpful to you, you know? Okay, that's actually funny. Alright, let's check rich Vespine gas. Oh, they do gather 8 gas per trip. Oh, okay, so it is equal amounts. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay. So, yeah, it is always optimal to take the rich gas then if you can. Alright. Interesting. Actually, I think if you're in a game, you probably want to be saving the rich Vespine. Maybe you want it early, and that way you can get a big boost really fast and then ramp up super fast. Or you might want to fight for it at the end, so that way if you do take it on the side of your map, you'll easily suck up the resources quickly and then turn the tide. I don't know how you think about that. Anyway, I'm gonna end the stream right now. I've just been chilling, but yeah, I'll probably just go live once in a while and just cast some of the games from the Cavstar League, and then maybe hang out a bit after, or just end the stream right there, because I gotta cut these up, and I'll probably put them up on like a second YouTube channel or something like that. Alright, anyway. I will go. Farewell.